I'm continuing my reading, and what I'm doing in this series is to read through the entire standard works of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This consists of the Bible, the Book of Mormon, the Doctrine and Covenants, and the Pearl of Great Price. I am reading in a chronological order of events, not according to publication or volume, so I will be skipping around a little bit as I move along. I recently read the early days of Samson in the Book of Judges. That's, chapters 13, 14, and 15. That's the early days of Samson. He is now a judge in Israel. It is while he is a judge in Israel that Samuel is born, so I am now reading in the first book of Samuel. The first book of Samuel, otherwise called the first book of the Kings. Chapter 1. Hannah prays for a son and vows to give him to the Lord. Eli the priest blesses her. Samuel is born. Hannah loans him to the Lord. Okay. It's a little long, but we should be able to get through it in one video. Now there was a certain man of Ramathaim Zophim of Mount Ephraim, and his name was Elkanah, the son of Jeroam, the son of Elihu, the son of Tohu, the son of Zuph, an Ephrathite. And he had 2 wives, and the name of the one was Hannah, and the name of the other Peninnah. And Peninnah had children, but Hannah had no children. And this man went up out of his city yearly to worship and to sacrifice unto the Lord of hosts in Shiloh. And the 2 sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, the priests of the Lord, were there. Okay. Now, I just want to mention, it says he's an Ephrathite, and that generally is a term for an Ephraimite, right? But he's from Ephraim. He's living within the boundaries of the tribe of Ephraim, which makes him an Ephrathite, because he is from the area of that tribe. But as we learn in the book of Chronicles, which I have read these chapters, that he is actually descended from Levi. He is a Levite. So Samuel is a Levite. He is of the proper priesthood line. Let us continue. Verse 4. And when the time was that Elkanah offered, he gave to Peninnah his wife, and to all her sons and her daughters portions. But unto Hannah he gave a worthy portion, for he loved Hannah. But the Lord had shut up her womb. And her adversary also provoked her sore, for to make her fret, because the Lord had shut up her womb. And as he did so year by year, when she went up to the house of the Lord, so she provoked herself. Therefore she wept and did not eat. Then said Elkanah her husband to her, Hannah, why weepest thou? And why eatest thou not? And why is thy heart grieved? Am not I better to thee than 10 sons? So Hannah is very much grieved for the lack of children. And in her depression, she is not eating, and her husband is trying to comfort her. Not sure he's doing a good job at it, but he is doing it. Now, I do want to look back here. There's a footnote on that her adversary also provoked her. Footnote says to cross-reference with Genesis chapter 16, verse 5. And I just wanted to swing back for just a moment and take a look at that. Yeah, it's a reference back to the story of Sarah and Hagar, which gives the impression that her adversary was the other wife, Peninnah. And that she kind of mocked her for not having children. But I will point out that Elkanah was not guilty in this. He was doing good. He gave all of his sons their portions. He gave Peninnah her portion. But he gave Hannah a little bit more because he was trying to comfort her. He was trying to make her, he loved her. And he was trying to make her feel that she wasn't being left out. But she felt left out. So let us read again. Verse 9. So Hannah rose up after they had eaten in Shiloh, and after they had drunk. Now Eli the priest sat upon a seat by a post of the temple of the Lord. And she was in bitterness of soul, and prayed unto the Lord, and wept sore. And she vowed a vow and said, O Lord of hosts, if thou wilt indeed look on the affliction of thine handmaid, and remember me, and not forget thine handmaid, but wilt give unto thine handmaid a man-child, then I will give him unto the Lord all the days of his life, and there shall no razor come upon his head. And it came to pass, as she continued praying before the Lord, that Eli marked her mouth. Now Hannah, she spake in her heart, only her lips moved, but her voice was not heard. Therefore Eli thought she had been drunken. And Eli said unto her, How long wilt thou be drunken? Put away thy wine from thee. And Hannah answered and said, No, my lord, I am a woman of sorrowful spirit. I have drunk neither wine nor strong drink, but have poured out my soul before the Lord. Count not thine handmaiden for a daughter of Belial, for out of the abundance of my complaint and grief have I spoken hitherto. Then Eli answered and said, Go in peace, and the God of Israel grant thee thy petition that thou hast asked of him. And she said, Let thine handmaid find grace in thy sight. So the woman went her way and did eat, and her countenance was no more sad. Now, this is the comfort she wanted, of course. But I do like the story. She goes and prays, but she prays silently, with her lips moving to the words, but not actually making any sound, so he thinks she's drunk and chastises her. And when she tells her story, he then blesses her that she will get what she wants. So it's a nice little story. Eli was a great guy in general. He did have his one fault too, which we will talk about in later chapters, but he was the high priest, and he had some gift of prophecy, obviously. So, verse 19, And they rose up in the morning early, and worshipped before the Lord, and returned, and came to their house to Ramah. And Elkanah knew Hannah his wife, and the Lord remembered her. Wherefore it came to pass, when the time was come about after Hannah had conceived, that she bare a son, and called his name Samuel, saying, Because I have asked him of the Lord. And the man Elkanah and all his house went up to offer unto the Lord the yearly sacrifice and his vow. But Hannah went not up, for she said unto her husband, I will not go up until the child be weaned, and then I will bring him, that he may appear before the Lord, and there abide for ever. And Elkanah her husband said unto her, Do what seemeth thee good. Tarry until thou have weaned him. Only the Lord establish his word. So the woman abode and gave her son suck until she weaned him. That means she was breastfeeding. She was nursing him. Verse 24. Oh, and to be weaned means no longer breastfeeding, no longer nursing. He was able to eat solid food. At that time, probably around 4 or 5 years old. So verse 24. And when she had weaned him, she took him up with her, with 3 bullocks, and 1 ephah of flour, and a bottle of wine, and brought him unto the house of the Lord in Shiloh. And the child was young. And they slew a bullock, and brought the child to Eli. And she said, O my Lord, as thy soul liveth, my Lord, I am the woman that stood by thee here praying unto the Lord. For this child I prayed, and the Lord hath given me my petition which I asked of him. Therefore also I have lent him to the Lord. As long as he liveth, he shall be lent to the Lord. And he worshipped the Lord there. Now, when it says lent to the Lord, that means he is in the service of the Lord. He is going to live at the tabernacle with Eli. That doesn't mean that she is no longer going to see him, or that he does not recognize her as his mother. He always will. But he is now in the service of the Lord. I also want to point out the feast. He says Elkanah went down once a year. And then the feast is described, they go and they eat. And Elkanah notices that Hannah's not eating. And he tries to comfort her. She's not comforted. And she goes, after the feast, she goes to the temple, or the tabernacle, and she prays. And then once Eli gives the blessing, she returns, and they eat another feast, at which time she eats, because she is comforted. The high priest has told her she will receive what she's been praying for. She is no longer depressed, no longer sad. So what is this feast? What is this yearly time that Elkanah is going to the tabernacle to give his vow, to perform his sacrifices, and to feast? This is most likely, I can't say definitively, but most likely the Passover. Because remember, the Passover starts with a holy convocation and a feast on the first Sabbath, and ends with a holy convocation and a feast on the last Sabbath. So they go down to the tabernacle, they're there for a week, they eat, they have their feast on the first day. During the next few days, Hannah is praying. She gets her blessing, she goes back to her family, they have their last feast, and they head back home. I think this was that they were going down yearly for the Passover. Just wanted to put that out there. Now, we will see some more of Samuel in the next chapter. But for now, see you later.